Hello, everyone. Welcome to Every Library Live, and thank you for joining us for Audiobook Week 2025, a celebration of the art, craft, and culture of storytelling through sound. I'm Gigi Howard from the award-winning podcast Drinks in the Library, where every week I invite a guest over to spill the tea about their favorite book, and we pair it with a drink. All right. So all week we are featuring conversations from best-selling authors, award-winning narrators, and the creative professionals behind your favorite audiobooks. From gripping thrillers and historical fiction to immersive audio-first productions, this festival is your front row seat to the voices that brings these books to life. Whether you're a lifelong audiobook fan or just getting started, we're glad to have you here to explore how stories are made, why the format matters more than ever. Tonight, we are interviewing Andrew Eakett and Alex Combs, authors of Trans History. Hey, y'all. And also
Hi.
joining us, hi, are Iris McElroy and Juan Garcia Ticoulat, producers of the audiobook version. This event is sponsored by Penguin Random House. All right, so about the book, I've got real quick. Trans History from Ancient Times to the Present Day is an essential new audiobook that brings centuries of trans voices and experiences to life from ancient Rome to Stonewall and beyond. Authors and narrators Alex L. Combs and Andrew Eakett will discuss their meticulous research, the stories that move them most, and how they set out to create an accessible, inclusive, and deeply human portrait of trans history. All right, joining us as well are Juan Garcia Ticoulat and Iris McElroy, the acclaimed producers behind the audiobook's immersive soundscape and thoughtful casting. Together, we'll explore what it means to tell queer and trans stories in audio, how creative production choices can amplify marginalized voices, and why audiobooks are such a powerful medium for preserving and sharing history. Y'all, thank you so much for being here with me tonight. And Alex and Andrew, I'm going to start off with y'all. Can you start with introducing yourselves, how you met, and where we went from there for writing the book?
Sure. Hi. Thanks so much for having us. This is Alex.
I'm Andrew.
Um, let's see, we met all the way back in North Carolina when we were in high school. And we've been together ever since. And that was over 20 years ago.
Oh.
So we've been through a lot of different creative processes over the years, but this was by far the biggest undertaking that we've done as a creative team.
Excellent. So what inspired y'all to write the book? Or Alex or Andrew, do you want to jump in?
Let's see. We've both been interested in history for a long time. We both just like learning about stuff in general. But Alex, for undergrad, did a major in women and gender studies, and really started to dig into like the nitty gritty of what it means to like learn stuff through historical, primary sources and things like that. And this particular project was, the timing was that he had just finished grad school, right, for comics. And we wanted to work on a project. I was at least going to help him. It was going to be his project initially. And I wanted to be like the backup. I wasn't sure what I could accomplish necessarily. Sometimes my ability to focus on work isn't always so great. So we ended up going to the GLBT Historical Society archive in San Francisco, where we live, and looked at the diaries of Lou Sullivan, who was a gay trans man who lived in San Francisco in the 70s and 80s and was an activist to expand care to trans people who are not heterosexual. And so we were reading his diaries. Now there's a book that
I think there's two books
now.
Books?
Yeah.
I think I saw another one.
Of his, taking selections of his diaries. But this was, we never read anything like this. It's like he kept his diaries from the time he was like a kid till the time he died. And so this is like decades. And we were so inspired. We made a zine, and we were passing it out at, I don't remember which zine festival.
A couple
different ones, just like to try to get people to learn a little bit of something about trans history. And yeah, it was so exciting that was what we decided we wanted to like try to focus on the next phase of our career, of trying to make an entire book about trans history. Initially, we didn't know how big it would be or what the focus would be. And it was like, should we even try to like trans history in general? Like, what's that going to be? But we were right. It was a lot. There was like a lot more than we thought, a lot more information than we ever thought we could find. Just tons of people and trans people in history popping up. And that was what made it was like a passion for trans history, and seeing that there were books coming out about queer history and trans history, LGBT plus history, but nothing that was just like focused exclusively on digging into trans people in history, the place of trans people in history, why we haven't heard about trans people in history.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think I've lost my camera. Can y'all see me, or you cannot see me?
We cannot see you.
I cannot see
Well,
you.
let's see if I can come back, but my voice is still here, so that is very exciting. So I wanted to also bring in Juan and Iris. So like, how did you get brought into this project? Because it started off as a graphic novel, and now we're kind of turning it, and that's so interesting to turn it into an audiobook. So
yeah, I actually,
Yeah.
well, hi, I'm Juan Garcia. Should I jump in, Iris?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, go
I'm
ahead.
an associate producer, being with Random House Audio, and I've been doing this role for 3 years. When I picked this title, it really kind of spoke to me in a way that, the material resonated with me. I have several opening moments, and have like deep empathy towards the trans community. When I saw this title, I knew I had to produce it and try to make it the best possible audiobook. And Iris and I have met a long time ago. We both were engineers at another like media production house, and I knew she was also like a sound designer, an engineer, and she had worked in many graphic novels, the same as me. I also had worked in some graphic novels. So I asked her like, hey, would you do this with me? I know like you are gonna like the material, and she accepted, which I'm really happy of. And we both worked together on this. And then pretty much like you guys, when you say that things were kind of open at the beginning, we didn't know where the direction. We kind of really wanted to start a conversation with the authors early on, because we didn't really have like a clear direction for the audiobook either. Like there were so many cool elements, so many cool illustrations, and we thought that the best thing we could do was like involving them and try kind of talk about their vision for the audiobook specifically, and how we could like fulfill that vision. Right, Iris?
Well, typically, yeah. Can you hear me okay? I don't know if I'm like freezing that. Okay. Well, typically, at PRH, we like to, it's a very collaborative process, not only among the team, but we like to involve the authors, and we like to, everybody to have their hands in and have their input, because that's where the creativity really kind of starts to happen. But with this in particular, because it's a graphic novel and there are so many beautiful pictures that we wanted to honor in audio, and it's so colorful and rich, we really had to figure out how we could kind of bring that same vibe, for lack of a better word, to the audio realm. So it really was a very, very much a collaborative process, I think, with Alex and Andrew, where we had to work on adaptation. We had to almost rewrite the script. They were so imperative with that. Juan and I couldn't have done it, because it's their words, it's their pictures, and ultimately Juan and I, after working on the script, we kind of just came to the conclusion that the best way to approach this is to treat it as almost like a audio documentary, you know, because you have, and each chapter is like its own episode. Because you have all these wonderful stories that come in. We brought in actors to kind of recreate some of the scenes that they had in the print edition. And then my favorite part is that they featured all the community members as their own chapter, but then also throughout the whole book, you know, like an expert would come in and, you know, share their insight into whatever the chapter was about. And so we invited maybe like how many like 15 to 20 community members
Most of
on
them,
board.
honestly, everyone we could like
A lot of
get
it
on board.
to
We just
record
like
their
reach out.
sessions.
Yeah.
Were they all
Yeah.
in San Francisco? I mean, how does this
No.
work?
They were all over the world. It was
Some of
a
them in
lot of
Europe, we
scheduling.
have
It was a lot of coordination. Yeah, we were
so
recording some
many.
people at home. We
Yeah.
were recording. We were putting people in studios. Like we made it happen.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a really cool effect. I think it's really special that we got to include them. So
yeah,
Indeed.
I love that. Alex and Andrew, like talking on that subject, what were like, that's this big surprise. What was your experience like doing the audiobook version? Some surprises you guys had?
It was really amazing. Like, definitely at first, I also had that reaction of like, huh? Like a graphic novel and an audiobook? Like, but then as soon as they said it's going to be kind of like a radio drama, like documentary type thing, I was like, oh, it just made sense. There's going to be like music, sound effects, like different little voices. And I've listened to like old radio dramas, and so I get it. And I've, been really entertained by that. So, yeah.
And I also
I love audiobooks.
I failed to mention that Andrew narrated the bulk of it. That Andrew played the role of like the main narration over all this documentary style, and he did an amazing job.
Thank you.
Yeah, he did great. At first, they were like, "Do one of y'all want to narrate it?" And we're both like, I'm like, I don't know. That sounds like hard for me, but I think maybe Andrew would. And so, yeah, he went for it, and I think he did amazing.
Andrew was a really good sport.
Thank you. It was so much fun. I didn't want to turn down the opportunity to do something like that. Like, I've never been a voice actor in a studio, and when else am I going to get a chance? Like, it was so cool.
I'm so glad you did.
Yeah, thank you.
Well,
yeah,
Andrew,
sorry. I was just going to gush about how they got all the community voices members, except for Ben Power, couldn't get a hold of him, but got a hold of every single other one, plus quite a few of the experts that we quoted. And I just loved hearing them read their own part. That was just perfect. I wouldn't have wanted it any other way. And it just made me so happy when I listened to it and heard all of them reading their section aloud. It felt like a complete circle from when I interviewed them all the way back years ago for the first time. Yeah, that was so amazing. Yeah.
What a cool way to bring it all together. Andrew, what was it like? I mean, if you were going to tell yourself before you started being now with your audiobook career, before, what would you tell yourself starting off?
I would say you are right to think you need to practice. Do that. But that it's not as scary as you might think it is. Yeah, that a lot of it has to do with relaxing and like kind of feeling the vibe and just going with it. I also trust the director. Nikki Andrus was really great and made me feel really at ease. Really reassured me when I was like, am I doing this right? It should be like, yeah, or just tell me how to correct when I wouldn't know what to do. Yeah. I would say, you're going to have fun, dude. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, Nikki was amazing. Yeah, it would have been cool if she could be here. But yeah, she's got an active social media, so it might be worth linking her. That she's our director.
Maybe I can add it to the chat, Gigi.
Yeah,
wonder if
and
I
we
should
can
add-
definitely add it. I'm sure we can add it in post to make sure we give her a shout out for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally subscribe that. Like, she was so amazing throughout like the whole process. Not only like directing, which she did amazingly well, but also like showing, like sharing her ideas, like getting like with their like the research she did was amazing and so communicative with us. And right off the bat, you could tell that they were like extremely passionate about the topic and just in this exactly the same page as us, like just to try to make the best possible experience for listeners. So we are super grateful. We couldn't have dreamed of someone better to direct this program.
Yeah, we just really trusted her immediately, and she really did come to the table with like ideas, even about like the dialogue with some of the scenes that were acted out. Like she, helped make adjustments, helped the actors make adjustments, and then she worked on every one of those recordings. And there were 33 people total on the book.
Yeah.
One. So she dedicated a lot of time, and we are very, very grateful for her. She's also a narrator herself, if you ever want to check out her books.
Just to add on to what kind of research was she doing? I know for one thing, she did a lot of researching how to pronounce things correctly, like names and places. Hopefully we got most of those right.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
It was a lot.
I want to get some listeners and viewers out there kind of excited to check out Trans History. Maybe we can do a little round robin for everybody for what is your favorite character or person that's covered in this book and why?
All right. Well, I'm not gonna. All the community voices are like truly special. Of course, Marsha P. Johnson, like Miss Willie Cooper, is just so charismatic, and you can hear that. When they speak themselves. To me, the moment that kind of stayed with me at the very end of the audiobook is the conversation about Rose Wong. I don't know. It's just like it really made me emotional, and there's a very special moment because we managed to get some of her music. She was an incredible musician. We got one like simple but very nice piano piece that we could put underneath the narration while they were talking about her and what she did and in this conversation moment that is so truly special. So that's, if I had to pick, it's difficult, but if I had to pick just one single moment, for me it would be that one. Also, of course, Lilac Maldonado is a truly special moment, and we are really grateful to have it like on tape. So yeah, those two moments, and in general, the community voices are extraordinary.
Love it.
Can I just clarify a couple of things for the viewers? Rose was someone who, in case they haven't read the book, Rose was someone who I had interviewed for a community voices section, but she died of suicide shortly after I interviewed her, and so we couldn't complete her comic. So we got a group of her friends together to do a section in honor of her, and they actually reached out to Rose's dad and asked if they could use this piano music of hers, and he gave permission. And when I heard that clip, I was like instant tears in my eyes. It was amazing. And yeah, Lilac was someone else who, due to health complications, passed shortly after recording her section, within a week or something. It was very shortly after. So, but we actually have her voice, which is amazing. So yeah, just to clarify for who those people are for the viewers.
Thank you for sharing that. What are some other stories that people from the book that we'd like to talk about?
I guess I can go. One person who I interacted with, who I just instantly, and again from the community member section, is Madam Miss Billy, who she was just a force. And she talks about how in her comics, she talks about how, you know, she lost her eye, but how that end up eventually becomes her superpower, which I really just appreciated her attitude. But she was vibrant and, like I said, just a force of nature. And what I saw, I think she's running for some office position in San Francisco now, which go out and vote for her. Is that true, you guys?
That was a past election. So she's not currently running for it.
Oh,
Yeah.
I saw 2025 on the bottom of the page, so I was like, okay, Miss Billy, but I just really loved her.
She might be doing it again.
Okay.
I might not know yet, but she might be running again.
That's amazing. Yeah, I just really enjoyed speaking with her. But like I said, the community members section, and then overall, like what makes the audiobook special is that every reader on the book they were trans or from the LGBTQ community. And even the director is a trans woman herself. So like everybody involved was just from the community. And I just felt that was really special to highlight everybody on it.
Oh. All right. Alex and Andrew, what do you think?
I would love to just jump in and elaborate a little bit about Miss Billy Cooper. She's an amazing trans elder that lives here in San Francisco, and was someone I reached out to really early on when I was starting to do those interviews, and she had agreed to be interviewed. And I'm like explaining to her, well, it's a comic book. And she's all like, a comic book? So then she tells me this like superhero story about like how she lost her eye, and her prosthetic eye that she got gave her superpowers. And so I think she was like at first imagining like, oh, a comic book, that means like superheroes. So it's like this really different. I loved the story she told me so much that I asked, you know, my editor, even though this is totally different than anything else we have in the book, can we please include this story too, just for fun? And they were like, yeah, I thought it would just be a nice change of pace.
And we did not have any other option that putting like superhero music on that section.
Yeah, they came out great. Okay, do you want to do a favorite?
Let's see. When I get asked this question, I have to pick just someone from the book because, like, they're all my favorite.
Anyone we were working on at the moment was our favorite.
That was like my favorite. And then I was like, oh, this is my favorite. I was like, I love him. I love her. I love them. So, like, let's see. I will take this moment to talk about Michael Dillon, a trans guy from I don't remember exactly when he was born, from the
late 1800s.
Early 1900s.
Early 1900s.
He was around in World War II.
Right.
He's like the first trans man to get gender affirming surgery that we know of. Helped like start people on the path to like do bottom surgery. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, bottom surgery specifically in this case. And I really like his whole arc because he starts off as just kind of a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, minor aristocrat, like masculine woman, basically, and then ends up being a surgeon and like going around the world. And when he was outed, he went through like a spiritual journey. He like renounced his former life and like decided to hide in India and converted to Buddhism. And I don't remember all the and wrote his story down. It's cool because there's not a lot of examples of trans guys that end up telling their stories, but since he had a little bit of social privilege, he was able to like, he was well educated and felt could see where his story could help, like in a medical sense, other trans people too. So I like his story because he really used what was available to him to both achieve his goals for himself as a trans person, figuring it out without any role models to look for, but also was like thinking ahead to like other people need to know about this path for trans men.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to take a moment, and it differs from the book a little bit, but we are on Pride Month right now, and we are in a moment where specifically the trans community is not feeling the love. And I would like to have a second for everyone to talk about what does trans allyship, meaningful trans allyship, look like for anyone that's listening out there.
That's like a tough one for sure. I mean, it's going to be different like for every individual situation. If you have a trans family member, just try to support them and respect their decision. You know, try to use their pronouns that they ask you to use. Like, it's fine if you don't get it perfectly. You know, they're going to understand. Just like try to have your heart in the right place. And then as far as like all the legal stuff that's happening, I guess there's like the basic stuff like trying to write to your representatives when there's a relevant bill up for a vote or that kind of thing. If you're the type to go out to a demonstration, you know, it might be worth doing that. Everyone kind of has to find their own way. You can also like promote posts online, like, you know, that are informational about trans people to raise awareness. There's a lot of different ways that I think people can demonstrate allyship.
Yeah. Like you said, it's a little different for everyone, but I'm going to pick one and say a thing that people who aren't trans can do to help is to get informed. And that doesn't mean just ask the trans person, you know, what their opinion is and then assume that's like the honest, like that's the one truth about trans people. But it means to actually like pick what you don't understand and do some like research if you can. Deep dive. That's part of why we wrote this book, is because we wanted to give people a starting place to, if they see like, oh, there's a lot going on here that is blowing my mind, to be able to like poke around and like see like maybe what in your worldview might need to change to help you better support trans people in your life, and also know who you are yourself and know why you are the way you are. Like if you're someone who's not trans, like this is everyone's history. I guess that's one thing. Yeah, like don't think that just because it's about trans people that like you can't get involved. Like gender is, everyone has to deal with gender one way or another. And if you inform yourself well enough to like be able to speak with authority when someone says misinformation, like that really helps, because people kind of assume trans people are biased or like don't really know what we're talking about sometimes when it comes to trans issues specifically.
Right. And I think from listening to the audiobook, a lot of it is telling the world that trans people have been here this whole time and this isn't a new issue. So I think the work speaks to that. Juan and Iris, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I was just thinking that, you know, one of the coolest things about audiobook production is that sometimes you get to work on something that you truly believe is important and meaningful. I had a turning point, I think I mentioned that before, and I opened a turning point when I was working as an engineer on an audiobook named Tomorrow Will Be Different by Sarah McBride. I love that book. It really opened my eyes. It gave me a window into sometimes the painful realities that some trans people face every day. It was kind of hard to take in. So, you know, I just try to, allyship, like, to me means like showing support and love and, you know, just treating them like normal people. That's everything that it is to me.
I love that. I love that so much. I want to thank y'all all so much for coming out tonight. This has been amazing. Trans History is such a wonderful book and audiobook. I loved listening to it. Like that, it's like a radio program kind of vibe. There's so many different aspects to it. And just thank you so much. And I want to thank all of our viewers for tuning into this session of Audiobook Week with Every Library Live. We hope you enjoyed this behind the scenes look at the people and processes that make audiobooks such a powerful part today of today's culture, and thanks all of y'all for that. If you miss any sessions or want to revisit any favorites, you can catch them all on Every Library's Facebook and YouTube on demand anytime. And with that, I say good night, y'all. This has been so lovely.